Attention, approaching restricted area. Please scan credentials. Nerd credentials verified. Welcome to Area Nerdy 1. Please leave all lightsabers in off mode. All Pokémon must be accompanied by their trainer while in the facility. Please remember, Area Nerdy 1 is a joint containment facility with SCP, SHIELD, BPRD, and Star Labs. All time travelers and portal jumpers must check in with security. And please remember to stay nerdy at all times.
Hello and welcome to Area Nerdy 1. I am Jimmy.
I'm Jarrett.
Hold on a second.
And welcome back.
All right, let's get. I gotta get your Discord up here. So, Jarrett, while we're working on getting the visuals up, why don't you tell us a little bit about what's going on here at Area Nerdy 1?
Well, as you guys might have noticed, we have taken a little bit of a respite. I was kicked out of Area Nerdy 1 compound because apparently I'm a danger to my fellow employees.
It happens.
It happened. So I moved across the country, so I'm in another compound. So yay.
Yay indeed. So, why don't you,
Yeah.
so we got some new stuff coming up. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, we do. So first and foremost, we're going to be streaming every Friday, at the last Friday of every month from now on, to keep everybody up to date. We will be starting up a new Threads channel on the Meta website. So we'll be up to date on that. And also, we'll be a little bit more positive and a lot more content will be coming on our TikTok as well, because we'll keep an eye out. This is going to be the start of our new season, and we will be ending probably at the end of next year.
There we are. Now we got you.
How you got me? My
yes.
beautiful face?
Yeah, OBS is a little finicky sometimes, but here we are. We got you patched through. All right, so yeah, we are starting a new season here at Area Nerdy 1. Now there is lots to go over as far as news. Now, do you want now?
We do.
All right, let's address the wage gap elephant in the room here, shall we?
Yes, absolutely. So, one of the first questions that we have to answer is: are we going to be creating content even during the SAG-AFTRA strike? We are, because SAG-AFTRA has not called for a content strike in general yet. So we will be doing a little bit of our content, but will not be reviewing old or new movies or even movies coming out, and that includes TV shows as well. So we're going to be focusing primarily on gamings and other things in the nerdosphere. So I mean, silver linings. Our content's going to be a little bit smaller than usual, but it'll be fine. And yeah, so
yeah,
here we are.
So so in solidarity with SAG-AFTRA, we are not going to be talking about anything that's upcoming. We're just going to be, honestly, if that's how things have to be for a while. If we just have to fall back on old content for people to get a living wage, I'm more than willing to do that.
We also, if you are leaning towards not consuming any kind of content that is video related or content streaming related, just for the solidarity of SAG-AFTRA, we do have another podcast you can check out. These Haunted Trails on Spotify. It's a very good, especially if you like the outdoors. We don't go over movies or any kind of media, so there's something you can listen to our sultry voices a little bit more.
That's
if you
right.
Feel so inclined.
Okay.
But Area Nerdy 1, we do have a official statement from the company itself.
That's right. What do you
So
have to say, Jarrett?
yes, here at Area Nerdy One, understand the hard work that goes into writing for the creation of content. The love for this art goes through the writing room to the stage. This craft is enjoyed by millions. Area Nerdy One the, stands with the Writers Guild of America and the Screen Actors Guild in their fight for livable pay, along with the respect and safety that their jobs deserve.
That's right.
We will
Don't
have a more official statement soon.
don't cross that line.
Line. And Jimmy, you had something to add.
Yes. So basically, this has always been my stance is that even though we're a nerdy channel and all we talk about is nerdy stuff all the time, and it's our bread and butter, it's our living, it's our passion, we do not need this stuff if it does not allow people to have a living wage, if it does not allow people to be safe. We talked about this back when we talked about stunt workers. When there was, specifically when there was an unfortunate accident, tragedy on the set of Deadpool 2 where a stunt actor was killed. If it ends up hurting people, or people are being killed, or people can't have a living wage, then it's not worth it to have this entertainment.
We have to be able. We're past the point in our society that I believe that we should be striving for ethical consumption, and I think does and should start with what we view.
Yeah, exactly. So here we are. So we're going to talk about anything but what's coming out because, not to say that Hollywood's knocking at our door to have us promote and go to these events, unlike some other TikTokers and influencers who you may have heard of in the news recently, getting into a little bit of hot water. For them to come to us, that'd be like if the UFC was running out of fighters, so they went to like the local dojos and got like the white belt 5-year-olds to fight for them.
Yeah, if Paramount comes knocking our door for us to write a movie, we've entered the very bad timeline.
Yeah, like
So we're glad.
You know who could save our Fast and Furious franchise? These two.
Yeah, we have two all-stars waiting in the wings, and we've just been waiting to get them out there.
Come on, come on. Nobody knows the plot structure of dinosaur movies like you guys. We don't do that anymore.
If they're getting us to write the dinosaur Fast and the Furious movie, I think I would just give up.
Exactly. So
I'd give up.
Wait, does this count as promotion if we're making fun of them?
Yes, of course.
Okay, then we're getting away from this. All right, Jarrett, what do you want to talk about today?
Yeah, just to touch on that. Even bad reviews are still reviews, unfortunately. So, first thing we want to talk about is, of course, the SAG-AFTRA strike. Hollywood is on strike. There is a lot to go over on this. Wow. So, the Writers Guild of America just went on strike about a month ago.
Like 2 months ago now, right?
Heck, 2 months ago. Wow, yeah. Basically, they were asking for a basic living wage and, of course, the royalties from streaming services to match their work as well. And the studio said, fuck off. There's no way in hell we're doing that. And bada bing, bada boom, we got a writer's strike.
That's the very, very condensed version, I'm guessing, right?
Condensed version. It is the very condensed version of it because there's a lot of, especially with unions and other work, there is a lot that goes into it.
And I'm guessing
those negotiations go.
A lot of stuff goes on behind closed doors as well.
Oh yes, but so that was like the big strike. So Hollywood is essentially on pause at the moment. The real blockbuster that came through is when the Writers Guild of America also went to the negotiation table, and one of their big policies was you have to pay the writers more, and the biggest one of their concern was the use of AI.
So actually, you said the Writers Guild, so you mean the Actors Guild? Because the Writers Guild,
the Actors Guild,
the Writers Guild was already the Writers Guild was already on
strike,
strike, and now for the first time in like 63 years, both the writers and the actors are striking together.
So the big sticking point was for both of them was the use of AI. So obviously we know a lot about how AI it generates a lot of wordplay and stuff like that. Kids have been using that to get through their homework for years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the most I guess the most famous and easily accessible for the public would be ChatGPT. That might be the one
Yeah.
that most people are pretty familiar with.
Yes.
So I'm guessing that we want to take a look at AI right now, correct?
Not yet. So the I want to touch on the actors and the AI. So
Okay.
essentially, what the studios wanted to do with the actors in AI was basically take like 3D renderings of both background characters and actual like big movie stars and starlets and use them in perpetuity forever.
In perpetuity.
Like in perpetuity, yeah. Sorry. So, like Jimmy,
Yeah.
so let's say you're an actor and you signed on to this. They would give you like a lump sum, maybe like $10,000 or something, scan your face and your body, and would put you anywhere in a movie at all.
So basically, they would add a Grand Moff Tarkin me into whatever movies they wanted, and I would only have
Exactly.
gotten that lump sum in their perfect world where they get to just do this type of shit without any oversight or blowback.
Absolutely. And that's not only bad. So, what happened is that there was a big issue with the use of young women's face that
Mm.
they could use for more risque scenes without their consent. And the studios were not budging on that either.
So
So, it gets you thought it was bad, it just got brat worst here. So so the studios are not looking very good. So now that both of these big unions are on strike, they're just trying to ask for very reasonable changes to their contracts.
right.
And yeah, so it's not like they're asking for everybody to get billions of dollars. They're asking for a livable wage increase. And if you act not even counting for inflation, writers have actually gotten paid less over the years.
Yeah. Well, one thing I keep hearing, this is
Mhm.
just scuttlebutt on the internet and like conversation I've had. There seems to be a little bit of a disconnect where people are kind of assume that because it's Hollywood and it's writing, it's an easy job, and that's not to and that's
It's not.
yeah, and that's not to say that like anyone else's jobs are easy by comparison or hard by comparison, but it's there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and even writing as an amateur is super stressful when you've got deadlines, when you have a product you want to put out. If you're doing that as a career, having a job that's intellectually strenuous or has intellectual product attached to it is just as important and requires just as much time and energy as any other job.
Yeah. So when we're talking about writing, it's not just writing; it's writing, rewriting, and rewriting again. And with especially with writing in Hollywood, it's production. So these guys and women and thems and thams are in rooms specifically and writing not only scripts but other things like where dolly shots need to be, where the locations are. Every part of that process, the writers are in that room. What we found with streaming is that they were actually what usually would take like a show would have a writer's room of maybe 12 to 24 people. It takes a lot of people to write a show
Hmm.
because it's very in depth. They reduce those staffs by at least 50%. So these rooms that would be like full of like 12 to 24 people writing like an entire show, now it's like six and lower writing 10 to 8 episodes that are supposed to be an hour long. So they're getting worked really hard, long hours, not giving residuals and not getting like actual pay.
Yeah.
What was it? There's a TikTok again is a really good source for this because a lot of actors and actresses are putting up their own residuals that they're getting from streaming services, and it's very very low. So it's not only the writers that are not getting paid very well. What was it? One of the lead actresses that was in 43 episodes of Orange is the New Black, only got paid $27 this year for her content that she worked very hard for.
Yeah. Well, and that's sort of a thing I've seen it being happening in Hollywood ever since
Uh-huh.
streaming came out. It really hasn't caught up to the business model of streaming yet. And we saw it sort of with I don't place all the blame on Marvel and Disney for this, but like they kind of led the charge and it became the model for it. But
Yes.
basically they have like 2 or 3 big tentpole movies that they put out. Like before, like there's a lot of people complain there's no like middle bucket movies, there's no like rom-coms, there's no just like buddy comedies, there's no stoner movies. Things that were like middle budget productions, and it didn't necessarily even matter if they bombed at the box office sometimes because they could make it up on DVD sales. And that's where DVD sales they don't exist anymore. So what they and then of course with Marvel and Star Wars, like basically the model was you make a much smaller amount of movies, but they're blockbuster extravaganzas. They each make billions, and then they are able to increase the margins by putting out less product, by making more of them, and making up the like what they would have made up on the DVD sales basically.
And merchandising too.
Yeah, but the problem is now we're starting to see. First of all, people don't go to movie theaters as much. We're starting to see superhero fatigue. So these big, superhero extravaganza movies or action movies aren't making as much money. Like Transformers didn't. I'm not gonna say the movies. But the movies aren't making as much money. Sorry, SAG-AFTRA.
Sure.
We already like broke our rule twice here. But
Yeah, we already did.
So, but basically, this sort of and then like you say even with all this going on, these studios are, like I said, making billions and billions of dollars, but the wages remain stagnant.
Yes, exactly. For the thing, so it's very difficult to talk about AI because we're not experts on AI. It is literally a science that needs to be explained more in depth to us because it's still growing. But what I could boil it down to is what I'm seeing from movies is that these are, like you said, huge, big budget movies now. There's no middle ground. That these are worth millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, even into the budgets. But they're all the same. Like there's nothing to differentiate one to the other than kind of some CGI and vague characterization. And that's what AI does. If you want to bring up the picture.
Do the thing.
Do the thing, Jimmy. Do the thing.
So this is basically Boolean.
A really dumbed down
version
of AI does.
Yeah, so this is called Boolean logic. So this is the very rudimentary idea of what computer logic is. Basically, you're able to have these like what usually when you're making a Boolean logic chart, it uses gates. We don't have one with gates up here, and so you have things like if. So like or and. So basically an and gate is if like one input is on and one input is on, then it outputs positive. It's hard for me to explain in real life, but basically these gates like they basically they're very simple. Like the gate in itself is basically on or off, but if you connect them all together, like you see here, then you can create vast, intricate computer networks, which is how computers work. AI basically are algorithms that are able to take this Boolean logic and output various take text inputs. AI is really just algorithms. We've had algorithms forever. Google.
It's not making a choice. It's so basically what they do with AI, especially when it comes to writing, it just takes what's most likely to come next in a sentence. That's why a lot of AI have a lot of weird sentences that they put out. You ever see those sentences that are like huge run-on sentences?
Oh yeah.
It's because the AI is just taking a prompt and putting what is most likely to come next. And what I'm seeing is like we've already seen it with the capitalism that is in the movie industry. Is that they find something that kind of works, like the Marvel movies, and now every single movie is like a Marvel movie.
Yeah, well,
no real differentiation.
I just thought about this. So, like if you boil it down to it, execs are a lot easier to replace with AI because really all they do is look at what's made money. So honestly, you don't even need AI for this. You just need an Excel spreadsheet.
Exactly.
And then you're your movie exec.
So then, so I started looking into a little bit of AI because I want to do research, and the prompt that we do have up here again is very, very basic.
But that's what it boils down to. If you boil it down to that, so that's why we got this up here. So this is sort of trying to take away the mystery of AI. It's essentially very, very very, very complex, more of if-else statements put together.
Absolutely. But the issue is the prompt. So what AI, a lot of AI does is it goes onto the internet. It takes everything that's already been done and boils it down. So these writers, even if they don't write, their work is still being used. Like right now, if like an exec is using some AI prompt to write a movie, those writers on the streets right now are still getting their work stolen from them still. But the thing is, it will take this. The story progression will be a if, then, and then else. And Jimmy, you brought this up more than a couple times from one of your favorite writing classes that you saw, none other than Matt Stone and Trey Parker.
That's right here.
Yeah.
I was South Park fame and Book of Mormon fame.
And Book of Mormon fame. But they're known for their story progression, at least in the first couple seasons. I'm sorry, I don't really have a high opinion of their later seasons. But Jimmy, what was their advice?
So basically, their advice is your story has to be connected by buts and therefores, not ands. To give you some examples, like let's say one thing that came up recently is the raising the bar episode because of the submarines. So let's see here. What's the God, I'm trying to remember that episode because they're so complex sometimes. Basically, Cartman. So you start off with Cartman wants to be disabled, but he's an able-bodied. Therefore, he declares himself obese and gets a motor scooter, but Stan takes issue with it. Therefore, Cartman decides to have gets really political with it and just makes all of the people in all the stores in South Park install stalls, and it moves on like that. But Stan notices the bar for humanity is lowered. Therefore, James Cameron goes down and gets it. It's so if you boil all these things down, like let's say what you will about the later episodes of South Park, I think that they did kind of veer away from this. Like definitely the early and mid seasons, everything is interconnected. Versus like let's say, let's go with Jurassic. Let's go with something else. So a book that I read, okay.
Yeah.
So this book that I just recently read called Ruin of Kings, just a bunch of and thens. Basically, starts off with Kieran was at a slave market, and then he gets sold to these assassins, and then they run away, and then they're chased by a kraken, and then he gets chased by a dragon, and then he's stuck on the island, and it really just and then he gets teleported, and then three gods came out of the sky and saved him, and then I stopped reading the book because it sucked. I would like to circle back to that one actually.
Yeah. For me, it's always going to be Fallout 76. So there is a story progression, but it's also just a lot of and thens because it doesn't really because all the characters are already dead. So it's always you go somewhere, you do your quest, and then you go on. Not anything. But if you remember from the prompt from the AI we had up there, it's a and then. That's it. One of the big things that Trey Parker said is if you have a story progression, you have a beat in your story progression, and you have and then put in there, you're fucked. That's his exact wording.
Yeah.
End quote.
Yes.
Because specifically, there's like a story flow to keep people engaged and keep a story flowing in a natural way. AI doesn't do that. It goes, this happens, this happens, this happens. That's it.
Yes.
If you want good movies and you want really good progressions and you want actual stories, you have to support this strike right now.
All right, and so this is also my personal experience with ChatGPT, which again is the super user friendly one. It draws off material that already exists, so it's got a big database of material. Or it draws it off, a search engine basically. So let's say I'm all about the versus battles. So I put some scenarios into ChatGPT to see what the parameters are basically. And let's say you put in something like Superman versus Goku, right? There's tons of material on them. There's wikis. There's tons. They've been around forever. There's tons of material on them. It'll generate a pretty in-depth fight scene for them, right?
Yeah.
But and then if I've done a few of these. Basically, it like you say with the fight scene, like when it comes up with these fight scenes, it follows a pretty like a similar structure every single time. So it's not gonna like differentiate or vary unless you make it, first of all.
Mhm.
And then let's say I put in a character, like I put in the wolf from Puss in Boots and Skekmal, the hunter from Dark Crystal Age of Resistance. Now, both those characters, one is fairly new and the other one is very niche. There's not a ton of material about either one of those. So I'm reading through these and I'm like, okay, they wouldn't do that. This wouldn't happen. They wouldn't do that. So, like, it doesn't. One thing that, super fans and just people in general is that they can know and understand characters better than a computer can. Like, even with something like Superman, the AI is going to draw from all the materials and spit something out, but it's not going to be able to say, like, okay, what is the experience that I've had that made me feel this way, and how can I bring it to the page or bring it to the screen?
Yeah, exactly. And also, a lot of the times is that we're also drawing uh, information from things that are not connected to that. One of the things that I liked is that, or my experience with this, I had an AI chatbot put up a battle between a Vistatosaurus Rex and the Indominus Rex, and it really didn't make sense because it was drawing from the content. But I was drawing my information and my own opinion from my information of what I know about apex predators, dinosaurs in general, and a couple of other things that I had rattling around in my head at the time. So AI doesn't really do that. If you don't have information you want from it within the parameters you set, it doesn't draw information from there.
Yeah. Now, AI has a lot of applications. It can be a very
Yes.
powerful tool. It does not belong in a writer's room. It does not need to, or it should not replace human interaction or human human intellectual product.
I do see that some people use a version of AI for mapping story progression to make sure that nobody gets lost.
That's yeah.
But
Like it's
that's completely different.
yeah.
It's
Like I
not
said,
creating content.
yeah. As a tool, totally yeah. Like as a tool in the writing room, like as a tool to create a I don't know, create a visual. That seems like it'd be totally cool and like actually save writers a lot of time and energy and like help things progress more quickly. To like try and get it to replace writers, first of all, it's not going to be able to, like we said, and B, that's entirely immoral.
Well, the issue I always circle back to is that executives that are putting through this are going to probably put it through because it is cheaper, and they don't care about the quality of the product like at all. Like we see that in the movies today. Like we
But
had
the
a couple massive bombs already.
which will remain unnamed. But
Unnamed.
here's the deal though. I see, in my non-expert opinion, a shift going on in movies and entertainment because, like I said, again, they shall remain nameless. We had several tentpole style action adventure movies come out, big CGI shit, right? With if basically 2008 to 2020 are any indication, they should have made a ton of money, but they didn't. What has been making money are things that are a lot more avant-garde, that are more artistically adventurous, that are more
And they're just good.
and they're just
too.
good. Yeah, they're just good. And
Yeah.
sometimes that is a catching lightning in a bottle thing, but people, you say, "Oh yeah, they don't care about the product." People are caring a lot more about the product these days. We've had, like I said,
Absolutely.
13, 14 years of CGI brouhahas, which had their place. We enjoyed them, but now people are looking for something more.
Absolutely. So fun fact. So we're still on this subject. We do. I can talk. We can talk about certain things that are not affected by the strike.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? Which one of those are?
Let's see here. Can't be catering. Can't be prop design. Can't be set design. Can't be lighting. Can't be recording. Can't be transportation or Teamsters. Can't be.
No, I'll just tell you.
Okay,
it's a studio.
Okay.
It's a studio. A24 is going through with their movie still because they agreed to the writer's demands and are specifically uh, raising up their standards and the pay for their writers and giving them more protection along with their actors.
Wait.
So
So
certain
A24 is
A24,
doing the right thing, and we can talk about them.
and we could talk about them because the writers have not put in a general strike of all content. This is more of a uh, review on movies that are coming out from certain studios, as A24 is not only a good studio that follows in the footsteps that they laid out, they actually treat their actors and writers very well. So, and they're more of an indie studio technically anyway.
Yeah. So okay. So I'll talk
But
about the Green Knight all day, every day.
yeah, but also surprisingly, that we can also talk technically about House of the Dragon because they are not part of the union because they're under the British Union and they have very high standards for their writers and actors.
But House of the Dragon gets sold and distributed by Warner Brothers and
HBO.
HBO. Yeah.
HBO. So that's where the gray area comes
So
in.
that's the other thing. So like, we want,
Mhm.
okay, let's say we don't want to talk about X show because or like we want to talk about X show because it's made by this studio. It's like, okay, well, it's distributed by the same company, owned by these, conglomerates, etc. So it's just like,
Right.
it's
It's there is no ethical consumption under capitalism. But once the SAG and AFTRA say that there's they want a whole content strike, then it would be that would be just a non-issue. It is just straight up don't talk about it.
all right. Well, you know what we can talk about without having to worry about whether we're standing in solidarity with the
What is
SAG-AFTRA.
it?
Just
What is it?
anything besides film and television. Because we're going to talk about we
Oh,
can talk about, let's see here, board games. We can talk about video games. Maybe we can talk about
that's it.
that's it.
We can talk about comic books. We can talk about books. We can talk about all of it. And honestly, it is a big time for gaming because kind of sucks now. I am sorry to say the bad news train keeps on rolling. Choo choo.
Wait, so is there something nefarious going on within gaming right now?
There is some butt fuckery about.
Okay.
So, first of all, it is Halo Infinite is one
It's
of the flagship. Halo obviously is one of the flagships of the gaming industry.
mhm.
And there's not a gamer alive that hasn't at least picked up an assault rifle and gone up against an elite.
It's the
Am I
only
right?
reason people buy Xboxes these days.
Yeah. There's this phenomenon that I wasn't really aware that we were a part of was the Halo parties. And there's not really a gamer that is like a millennial or younger that hasn't had a split screen of like Halo 3 or Halo Reach.
Yeah, I've been to
Remember?
I've been to a LAN party or two. You get like we had like a freaking bay of 5 to 8 tube TVs all set up together and playing one, all of them split screen, playing one giant game of Halo, and
Yeah,
you couldn't take 5 steps into that arena without getting, headshot by 5 other teenagers, but it was the
yeah,
life.
exactly. So what happened was there was the original creator was Bungie.
Hmm.
So they had to deal with Microsoft to create 5 games. So we have Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3, the prequels of Halo ODST, and Halo Reach, right?
Right. Hmm.
And then Bungie's like, straight up, we're done. Like, the story is concluded.
Yeah.
And that's why you see this jump because now it's the studio that Microsoft kind of hastily put together to continue the franchise. That's why you see like the story, whether you like it or hate it or love it. Like Halo Reach was a pretty good game,
Hmm.
but the story was pretty much done as far as Halo was concerned, and then it just kind of like starts up again ish,
Yeah.
kind of, and Halo 4. So that's what happened. So now we're in Halo Infinite. First of all, no split screen at all.
No, none.
Beginning of the
Okay.
game.
Okay.
Done. And now it's to the point where the entire community is just like done with the game in general. It was supposed to be the best open world game that was ever developed, and a month later, I don't hear anything about it. I still hear shit about Skyrim.
Yeah. Well,
You know,
it's mostly from us, but
yeah, it's mostly from us, but it's Skyrim.
yeah.
Skyrim's the bar, and Halo Infinite literally just fell off the face of the earth, and the community is really done with it. It's not created very well. It's microtransaction to hell, which everybody hates, and of course the battle pass and customization is really nerfed. It's just not a good game,
Yeah. So
and this has become the standard for big studios.
like what has the like what differentiates this from games that have all those other flaws? Because basically like okay, Star Wars Battlefront has a lot of like had the loot box problem, but a lot of people still really like that. They play it competitively.
Yep. So it's all about map design and the ability to do like what you want.
Hmm.
So obviously with Battlefront, there you're kind of limited on the skins that you can use and whatnot. But one of the things about Halo is that you can do a lot of customization. Every single Spartan you throw out into that arena is your Spartan. All the colors, all the different armors, everything is right behind, you guessed it, a paywall.
Ah,
Yep.
great.
So there it is.
Mm-hmm.
The maps are very on. Oh, Jimmy, you remember the maps of Halo Reach?
Beautiful. Works of art.
Beautiful. Chef kiss.
Sistine Chapel.
Just amazingly fun. They're every single one. I can like pick them out honestly in my mind because were all so different.
Right.
The map design of Halo Infinite is not. The campaign is not very good. From my own personal opinion, the story is dog shit. Honestly, it's terrible. It's not a good story. Like it doesn't continue the Halo themes at all. It doesn't really continue the Halo story really even. I found is like they found that obviously the peak of like enemy design is the Covenant, right?
Right.
Like you got everything you could ever want there. Different rank, different just right in the ranks. You have different kind of that the grunts are easy, the jackals are hard from a distance. Then you have the brutes and the elites. Obviously and it works thematically too within the lore. But then they were like, oh, we don't really have anything to replace that with, so they just went to the Banished, which is the Covenant with red.
Okay, so they just reskinned the Covenant.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just a very uninspired game with very little support. It's I've heard this a couple times from gamers. It's kind of like getting a game from a studio that hates you.
We hates them. That would be
We hates them.
That would be the Gollum game, I think.
Oh, they tried at least. Not everybody's cut out.
They put the effort in.
They put the effort in.
Yeah, all right. Put a note in that because we still got to finish. But because we still got to finish talking about Halo. So,
yeah,
should we get into the Halo books? Should we get into the novels?
They are notoriously hit or miss. So yeah, I don't know. If we're gonna stay on the Halo thing, the other thing that took a freaking nosedive is Red versus Blue.
Yeah. So wait. So Red versus Blue. So you've got like the was it Blood Gulch crew?
The Blood Gulch crew.
And then you have the reconstruction. So hey, Red versus Blue was one of those ones where when I first came across it, at 8 years old, whatever it was like, hey, you got a zombie plan, and I fucking died laughing for like months after that, right? But then, you slowly peel back the layers, and like, oh, it's like Futurama or something. It's one of those ones where it's like super silly and dumb, for most of it, and then you peel back the layers, like, oh, this has depth.
Yeah, exactly. I think they did a really good job with it, personally. I would not mind a reboot of that if they just went like, basically did I would like it if they did the exact same thing. It just did a little bit more in depth.
So one thing, so the reconstruction you've got, I think it was Washington was the agent that was.
Yeah, it was the semi-antagonist, and then
yeah, so he was the.
After that,
they come out with a series that was like just their prequel like story, right?
It was their prequel, but also continuing the story as well. It was like 50-50. That one was like the in-depth, like, oh, this is like underneath this goofy shit. It's a nightmare for these characters. It was very well done and well written. One of the biggest YouTube videos, actually when we were in high school, was the Tex fight. Remember from the Reconstruction series?
The what fight?
The Tex fight when Agent Texas is beating up the group of them.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest videos out there. That's like their like most watched video. It was
Right.
during the X the
M-
what is it called, the Machin
Machinima? Yeah,
Machinima
yeah, Machinima.
times.
There's a blast from the past. They ain't around no more.
Yeah, they're not around no more. But Machinima is specifically is using the characters in a game, using
Yeah,
them to move around with either mocap or just editing
yeah.
and telling another story. So that's what Machinima was. Um, and now it's like the last season was horrible. It was
Why?
terrible. The writing is just not there. It's just like it's kind of like somebody had a vague idea of what Red versus Blue was,
Hmm.
and then they had to write a series on it with none of the original characters.
Well, is Rooster Teeth is still around, right?
I think they have their own problems. That's an episode for another day if you
Yeah.
want.
So I'm wondering. Yeah. So I'm wondering how much they were actually involved in that. Uh,
Yeah.
so we're coming up on the last 15 minutes here, and I did put in the description that we were going to talk about Warhammer. So let's go from one over unwieldy lore to another one. Okay. So Warhammer, I've been starting to get every once in a while I'll just like start to scratch the surface, and it's like I'm opening the Ark of the Covenant, and the massive
Yeah.
amounts of knowledge and lore that I have to intake just melts my face. And I just fall back on laughing at the orcs because they're my favorite.
Warhammer's like actual history. There's a lot of names. There's a lot of dates, and it's like if you really get into the nitty gritty, it's absolute chaos, and I love it.
I
Even
know that there's the Emperor. There's this guy called Horus, and he messed shit up. And
oh, we're talking about 40K. We're talking about 40K. You want to get in that 40K shit?
what's the diffo at this point?
What's the difference? Well, first of all, the Emperor. There is technically the Emperor Franz, called Franz of Total Warhammer Fantasy. So the difference is basically the difference between Lord of the Rings and Star Wars.
So well, I get that they're different like points in time. They're in the
Yeah.
same universe, correct?
Mm, mm. so, it, depending on who you ask, some people say that the fantasy is the world before 40K, and then the humans like spread out and whatnot. Some people say that 40 fantasy is a realm before chaos.
So okay,
Yes and no.
okay, so like, all right, so let's say Warhammer 40K. So I get the impression that it's the far
Yes.
flung future, right? It's 40,000. Jeez,
It yeah.
it's the year 40,000. So basically, within that realm, like we're living in the realm of 40K right now. It's just gonna happen in our
Yes.
future. Like it's the real world, but it's in the future where there's all sorts of crazy wild shit going down, right?
Right, but the thing is, there are the differences that there is something called the chaos. What is it? Yeah, chaos, which is literally manifestations of human emotions.
Right. I got
Which
that.
and there are also psychers as well. It's basically the basics is yeah, it's the far flung future, except there are a ton of aliens that are older than dirt.
It took me months to land on orcs as the one I would go with, and it took me several months
Really.
more to land on Tyranids as my secondary that I would pick. Uh,
So my primary is the two not the Tomb King,
the
um,
Necrons.
the Necrons, basically Space Tomb Kings,
Yeah.
and my follow up is as cliche as it is, I'd have to say the Imperial Guard
There are,
or the Harlequins.
I guess the Harley. Yeah, Harley Quinn. Harley. Yeah, I feel like I would be. I feel like I'd be such a like a edge lord if I picked Harley Quinns though.
I would paint them like they have like like a sweater vest and khakis.
Yeah,
I call them the Harlequins.
the Harley Quinns. Uh,
Harlequins on the way to solve a mystery.
uh yeah. So, I've already stacked up way too many hobbies to be getting into Warhammer, but it does seem.
It's a great hobby and it's a lot of fun. It's so time consuming and it's a lot of money. So it's like one of those things you got to be in it.
Yeah, and that's the other thing. I guess this goes for any hobby really, but really, especially like Warhammer, it really just comes down to who has the most money to buy more figures, right?
Basically, kind of no. So you can't really do a real battle without having your minimum army. It's just that certain armies will need more than others. Like if we go to the tabletop of fantasy, your standard orc army is probably going to be a lot less than, like, figures wise, than the size of your orc army from 40K. Like it's the same faction, it'll be the same army, but one's just going to be a lot bigger.
So
Like the
like
Skaven from what?
but what I'm thinking is like, okay, let's say, at least in like Yu-Gi-Oh, if you're Seto Kaiba and you spend all your daddy's money on buying a Blue Eyes White Dragon, you could like, we could still go to locals and like still like be, at least like be creative with our decks and use skill to defeat that, right? You can use skill. It seems with like Warhammer, if I just slap down a fat stack on a big tote full of figures and bring that to my next battle, I just have a bigger army than everyone else.
That's where you're wrong, Poopy Pants.
Okay.
Did you check your pants there, Poopy Pants?
Explain it like
Jimmy?
I'm 5.
Jimmy, check your pants. Check your pants for them poopies.
Explain it like I'm 5 and I'm interested in like horrible war themed wargaming, okay?
I wanna let everybody know that I can't remember what happened to me in high school or what I learned in high school and some of college, but I can do this.
Okay.
Like, I feel like that's bad, but I don't care. So basically, armies have, like, your basically combat. So it's not just a bunch of hit points.
Mm.
So for the orcs, a lot of their stuff, like, canonically is jury rigged. So there's a fair chance that it will just explode and detonate on you. Like if you got one of your war boys firing upon an Imperial Guardsman, the orc will probably have a lot more attack and a lot more HP, but his critical failure rate will be higher as well, and his mobility will be lower. Harlequins have a much higher DPS rate, which is how much damage they can put out, and they can speed along very quickly across the entire map. So they can go from one side of the map to the other very quickly. So it's not only how big your army is, it's how they maneuver, how much damage can they output, how much damage can they take, how can they move, what's their leadership like. The Necrons, I think, are a really good example of this because they hit pretty hard. They can take a lot of damage, but they can't do a ton of mobility. Like if you can keep a stable artillery barrage like in your back line, they're not really going to be able to get to that. They don't have a lot of big monsters either that can soak up a lot of damage either.
Okay. All right. Well,
so that's kind of where you got to come from.
Okay. Well, moving to fantasy then. So my primary is obviously lizard men, and that's where I'm gonna sit. I'm gonna camp out, and I'm never gonna leave that. So what's the?
You gotta. You can have the lizard men. It's learn how to play the game, please.
But like, okay, yeah. So going in as a complete scrub, a complete noob.
Yeah.
We were playing against we were playing against our buds, yeah. And I was just like all cavalry, and I'm gonna swarm them. That worked.
It did work, but here's the thing: it worked because the lizard men are primarily a melee focused build, right?
Yeah.
You get in and you fight. So that's really good, but you were paired up with me, and I was playing against a Skaven, which is really good at just getting chaff and ranged units, right? Because their ranged units are friggin' amazing, right?
Yeah.
So first and foremost, you had the front line locked down, but you just didn't really work well because you didn't differentiate your units at all. Because cavalry in the game and on the tabletop are really good at running in, flanking the enemy, hitting from behind, but you can't sustain them in battle. So what you're supposed to do with cavalry is you put them in, take them out, cycle charge. That's where you went wrong because though it did work, it just didn't work well, and you were also going up against the beastmen, which are pretty terrible too.
Yeah, but yeah. So the problem I have with Warhammer, Total War, 2, and we started playing 3 a little bit, is I tend to forget that I have units and or where they are. So I'll be like looking at a little corner of the battle, be like, oh, it's not going good. What I do is like, oh wait, I've got an entire freaking unit over here in the woods. I completely forgot about them.
Yeah, so I have the exact same issue with my ADD. So I like micromanaging things both in the world map and the battlefield itself, is something I've kind of done to help like practice a little bit, actually going in and like, okay, I have to watch this, I have to watch this, I have to learn what these things are doing. That's helped me a little bit. But understanding the very basics is kind of complicated. You just got to get into it. But Warhammer is going to be very complicated for you because it's just so much shit going on. You'll have like a awesome doom stack, and then suddenly the Skaven will pop out of nowhere and ambush you, and you're like, what am I supposed to do?
Wait, but you're usually the Skaven.
I sound bad, but I usually play as the high elves.
Why is that bad?
Because they're like it's like the most milk toast white guilt
missionary and Froyo.
Missionary and Froyo holding her hand after prom kind of thing, It's just
that's sweet.
Yeah. It's kind of like one of those things. Like I kind of like one of the things I found when I'm playing games is I don't really like playing as the bad guy. I don't. When I'm playing Fallout, I'm not doing the evil options, or I'm not killing people for no reason. I'm not doing all this. I'm kind of like being the good guy. And a lot of the factions of Warhammer are not really the good guys. They're just kind of like surviving or going out of their way to blow everything up.
I got you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, according to like the Lizard Man lore, they're kind of close. They're not like good necessarily. I'd say they're more neutral, but they seem to be like actively fighting the forces of chaos, basically, like in the pre. Like
it's they're also got like they're since they're like the Lizardmen are like one of the oldest races, like even before the elves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like they have their own plan going on. So like they don't. It's like kind of like not cluing everybody else in on your plan, and you're just kind of doing it. And they also have what's called like cold-blooded logic, so that makes them very ruthless. So they're a fine line between good guys and just outright bad guys.
And then like I think like all the Slann lords are basically in complete psychic trances the whole time. So they're just kind of like not 100% there. So basically like they've got their skink priests like sitting by them being like, okay, what are they saying? What are they saying? And then they'll like murmur something in their trance. They'll be like, this is what it means. We got to do this.
It's kind of like the South Park episode when they're talking to the Pope and goes, oh.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's
exactly like that.
That's basically what they are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I guess the.
Yeah, but like you also have to watch out. Like apparently, horde factions are very easy. I think are one of the better ways to figure out Warhammer because they like you only have to really focus on like one army at a time. Blistermen have a horde army. The Beastmen I think is a really good horde army, and of course Chaos.
I think I'd like to play as the ogres, just so I can say it's all ogre now every single time I do something.
It's all ogre. There is going to be updates to Warhammer 3. There's going to be some new DLCs coming out this winter.
Ooh.
Yes.
Now is the winter of our discontent.
So, big update to this winter. Are you ready for this?
Sure.
We should have a date for release for the Winds of Winter.
How much you want to bet, Jarrett? How many gold dragons you want to throw down on this that it doesn't happen?
You know what? Your weight in sapphires from the Sapphire Isle.
Jarrett, I come from the Sapphire Island. That's where all of the sapphire mines in the Westeros come from. Or, let's see here. I'll take either that or a. You know what? I will pay you in. I will pay you one Faceless Man coin, which is basically one free assassination.
All right, and I will pay you in when I go to a Renaissance fair. I will get one of those minted coins.
Yeah.
It will be one gold dragon.
Okay, wait. So are you gonna get the ones that's like the necklace?
Yeah, you could just get ones that are necklace or just like straight up coins.
Okay, those are the gold ones are hella expensive though.
They're like $20.
Oh, maybe they were just really expensive when I was a kid and I didn't have any money.
Well, to be fair, after you start getting adult money, like like $20 is just like throwaway money. You know, you keep it
That's
in your
right.
wallet.
That's right.
Yeah,
Well, uh,
but he was so he record according to sources and himself,
mhm.
he was only 500 pages away, and that was about last April,
Only
not this
500
April. This
pages. That's like
Yes, but he specifically sat down and started writing it a few like more than a couple of months ago, like at the beginning of this year, and he's been writing it, and he said he was almost finished.
but 500
So he
pages.
should.
That's like one of the early Harry Potter books. That's still a hefty chunky boy of a book.
Yeah. Also, did you know his last book was like 600 pages? So it was like the book needed to be
That's like
written.
that's the whole thing.
That's the book, George. What do you mean 500 pages left? He said specifically he had an issue with what was going on with Cersei Lannister, but distinctly a few months after that, he put out a statement that he had fixed it and he knows where it's going. Because unfortunately, he is a gardener, so he needs to see where things are going to be growing. And I'd rather him take his time and put out something good rather than get something done. You know.
Honestly, I forgot that book series like still exists. Like it's been so long.
Yeah, it's been literally almost 12 years since the last book.
And rumor has been kicked around for a long time that it's taking him so long because he accidentally killed someone that is actually super integral to the plot. There's been a lot of speculation of who it is. I personally think that it was Kevin Lannister.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I think like that was the point. Like, I don't think so. So, I think he personally, from what I can see, is that Kevin Lannister was supposed to die because he makes a lot of sense, like in the whole storyline. I think it makes a lot of sense that he would die. Personally,
Maybe, yeah. So like, or maybe like, so we keep operating on the spoiler alert. We keep operating on
Yes.
under the assumption that Jon Snow is going to come back because we saw it in the shows. There's no guarantee that that's actually where he wants to take the story or where it's going to go.
Yeah, there is like in the show, Jon Snow came back because of Melisandre. There is nobody that can raise the dead anywhere near the wall right now.
Yeah.
Like at all. Like nobody. Like who? Like there's nobody there.
Yeah. Let's see
uh,
how he gets himself out of this without resorting to an and then.
Personally, I think he killed off Brienne of Tarth in the book, and then he changed it for her to say sword. So I think he had to rewrite her story. Because
Yeah.
for personally, what I was thinking is that looking back on what her whole character was doing in like the book up to the end, she was just kind of wandering around trying to look for Sansa, but not finding anything. It didn't seem like her character was going anywhere. So I think he was like, yeah, this character's not really going anywhere. We're going to get in her head. And then it's pretty fitting that she is killed by the person that she was sworn to protect.
Yeah, so that one is kind of an arc. Also, it kind of fits in with, let's see, I don't know, sort of a we talked about this a little bit. It's sort of a Green Knight where it's just sort of like she's wandering through these weird, strange landscapes and like on a journey she doesn't really fully understand. Also, sort of a like a quest for the Grail thing. Like she spends all this time like looking for this object that she's trying to find, rather than like one thing that always like is like one thing that gets me about the Arthur thing is like they spent years looking for this Grail rather than governing their country, basically.
Well, spoiler for King Arthur's legend. Got me now, Jimmy. But King Arthur's kingdom falls apart specifically.
Yeah, well,
that's the whole point.
Yeah, that particular book has been out for like what 1,000 years now. So
yeah,
I think
but the Civil War starts because Lancelot is hooking up with Guinevere, and then they split off and they form their own factions. And specifically, the night that the main character of the Green Knight joins Lancelot and kills Arthur.
I thought it was Mordred.
Nope.
I'm gonna look this up. I'm gonna look this up afterwards. But
anyway, so I think it was Brienne of Tarth, because what's supposed to be happening soon is the 4 battles, obviously, which is the Battle of Ice, which is in Winterfell, Bolton's v Baratheons, and then there's the Battle of Steel, which is Tyrell's v Golden Company. The Battle of Fire, which is the freed cities and the Dothraki versus the forces of the slavers. And my favorite, which is going to come up, is the Battle of Blood, which is the High Tower and Reach and versus the Ironmen, which I'm really looking forward to. The Ironmen just getting their asses handed to them. Like, honestly,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that.
I will say that Euron worries me because he's because he's kind of cool and mysterious, but to me he's like if that dragon horn is real, to me he's like an asshole who has found a hack basically.
Yeah.
So he's like, it's like, I don't know, like, and like no one knows about it. Basically, I'm just waiting for them to show up and him to be like, oh wait, I'm gonna completely flip this on its head just to be a dick about it.
I would not be upset if like the Battle of Blood didn't really culminate in anything. Like there's still like a big battle and the Ironborn are crushed, but like Euron's big like, oh, I'm gonna awaken Krakens, I'm gonna become a god or whatever. That just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Because like it just like because it's like it's a yeah, obviously like this is a fantasy story, but this isn't his fantasy story.
Yeah.
Like it's basically the culmination of Bran, which is but there's another thing that's supposed to be happening in this book or in the next book, which is the next Red Wedding.
Red Wedding 2.0.
2.0, which is supposedly going to happen in River Run with there's a Frey that's going to be marrying Devin Lannister, who's currently the Warden of the West, and that's going to be happening in Winterfell with a bunch of Lannisters and Freys, and maybe the Brotherhood Without Banners is going to pop out of nowhere and just absolutely destroy them.
And I've already written several like self-insert characters for this, so they'll probably show up there as well.
Yeah, we should do a Game of Thrones recap episode.
Okay, once the writer's strike is over, because Warner Brothers.
Yes.
Okay. So we're over an hour here. I think that we've covered pretty much everything we're going to cover. So.
Yes, absolutely. But first and foremost, at the end of this episode, we are fighting the good fight against big corporations, and so should you.
Trying to, at least.
The best way to do that, well, we're trying to at least. But the best way to do that is actually buying locally. And the best local coffee shop that we know of, Big Nerd Coffee Company. They've been fighting the good fight against the corporations for years now, and they're inviting you too. So go down to Big Nerd Coffee Company.
Yeah, they specialize in small batch, locally roasted, ethically sourced coffees, and all of their themes for all their coffees are nerd themes. So you've got like Haste, you've got Elder Bean, you've got ones that are like Roll20. They are all just nerd themes, so it fits in with our aesthetic. In case you couldn't tell.
Yes, and they do offer some coffee flights. But you do have to book those in advance. And let me tell you, the food alone is worth the trip.
Hell yeah. All right. So thank you very much to Big Nerd Coffee Company for sponsoring our show. Check them out. Check them out online so you can order from them directly, or go visit them in person in Bell's Country Coffee in Elmira, New York.
Well, yeah, that's all we got today. Please, if you guys have any questions for us or any topics you'd like us to go over, message us either on our Facebook or our Instagram. Have your question or topic you'd like us to go over, your preferred name and pronouns, and we would love to have them on the show.
All right, so everyone, go online, show your support for SAG-AFTRA. We want people to be able to live their lives in a way that is meaningful to them, and we can still enjoy the entertainment when that happens. So thank you guys all so much for listening. This has been Jimmy.
This has been Jarrett.
And
we're going to delete that.
Yeah, we're going to delete all of this.
Yeah, we can't have that